All right, everyone. I'd like to welcome you back from the break, and I'd like to turn it back over to my esteemed colleague, Honorable Blanford, for the introduction of our next speaker.
Thank you, Laylee. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to make this important and next introduction. I hope, Madam Sadie Tar, are you on? I just chatted with you. I think you are nearby.
Yes, I'm on.
Good. And do we have you on video?
Yes, I am on video.
Good, wonderful. Thank you so much. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back on time so that we can begin session 3, the Government of Liberia Human Trafficking Task Force. My job today, right at this moment, is to introduce a new friend, Her Excellency Willametta Sadie Tar, Minister of Gender, Children, and Social Protection of the Republic of Liberia. Madam Minister is a consummate, well-rounded professional of over 17 years of senior managerial proficiency with expertise in social policy, communications, business, and nonprofit. Currently serving as the Republic of Liberia's Minister of Gender, Children, and Social Protection. As an ardent advocate for women, children, and youth's rights, she has maximized the opportunity to leverage her multi-talented skills of working with diverse groups. She is self-motivated and results-oriented, and she's at the highest level of Liberia's executive cabinet. She has a background in restorative justice and advocacy. She has a unique ability to contribute immensely to the government's national and international advocacy efforts, given her decade of work as an African community advocate in the diaspora with immigrant families and similar work at home in Liberia. Since her appointment in 2018 by His Excellency Dr. George Manawia, President of the Republic of Liberia, to serve as this minister, she continues to wholeheartedly work to ensure in the implementation and the growth and sustainable impact of high performance in all of the work that she does for the pro-poor governance policy environment. Key among her achievements is that she's a leader in successfully mainstreaming gender in the country's development plan. Her international and purposeful work to fight sexual and gender-based violence has ultimately been noticed by local and international partners alike, thus enabling her to clinch the United States government's Women of Courage 2021 award through the U.S. Embassy accredited near Monrovia. Prior to serving as the Minister of Gender and Social Protection, she began her public service duty with the Liberian National Police and then moved on to Libtelco, the Liberian Telecommunications Corporation, before traveling to the United States to complete her education. Minister Tar holds a master's degree in advocacy and political leadership from the University of Minnesota in Duluth, Minneapolis, a bachelor's of arts degree in communication studies from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and an associate of science degree in business management from the Minneapolis Community and Technical College. She's an outstanding leader in all that she does in the community. We are so honored to have her here today. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Minister Sadie Tar. Madam Minister.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm so very happy to be here today. I, first of all, just want to acknowledge my co-speakers, Honorable Joel Marbury of the U.S. Embassy accredited near Monrovia. I want to acknowledge you, our Honorary Consul in the state of Georgia there, Madam Laylee Marparian, the Executive Director of the Wesleyan Centers for Women, Mr. Jerry Hendricks, Head of Security and Crisis Emergency Response Air Brussels, Mr. Michael Smith at Atlanta Hartsfield there, and all of the other speakers who spoke before me and other anti-human trafficking experts here. Our distinguished organizers of this event, I want to definitely acknowledge and say thanks to our partners and supporters, United States Embassy near Monrovia, the Wesleyan Centers of Women, the University Consortium, Brussels Airlines, University of Liberia, Liberia Airport Authority, the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, and all others. And want to again just speak and say hello, and like we're saying, like we had to our distinguished participants and online viewers, and to all others on this Zoom. I want to say again, good afternoon to you all, and depending on wherever you are, I guess afternoon, evening, morning, greetings to you also. I'm glad to be speaking during this human trafficking awareness virtual workshop under the theme Trapped in Transit, Combating Human Trafficking in Transportation, Travel and Tourism in Liberia. Today, I'll be doing a little background. We'll talk about progress and achievements, and then concluding. As stakeholders, we are all concerned about addressing human trafficking of all forms in Liberia. Therefore, we have gathered through this platform to be able to heighten the awareness around human trafficking, particularly making it possible for workers at all levels to recognize the signs of human trafficking and to know how to respond to and report on human trafficking, as well as for us all to understand how we can contribute to ending human trafficking in Liberia. With that said, I would like to begin that the amended 2021 Anti-Human Trafficking Law of Liberia defines human trafficking as the act of the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. In view of this, trafficking in person is a serious crime in Liberia and has been observed as one of the worst forms of human rights violation, with victims being mostly women and children. And my ministry, the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection, has been actively involved in preventing and responding to human trafficking through awareness raising and provision of shelter, psychosocial support, and reunification of survivors, respectively. Incidentally, I just want to say that for a minute there, I know Joel spoke from the end of the U.S. Embassy. It was almost like he was giving my entire speech. So I will try to not repeat a lot of what he said, but I think it's worth commending that the embassy is paying attention to what we're doing since we got our notice from them. So according to the report from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the UNODC, women make up 71% of trafficking victims, while children account for 1/3 of the total number. Notwithstanding, recent data have shown a sharp increase in the number of children that are being trafficked globally, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. Humans are trafficked for several different reasons, but sexual exploitation and forced labor remain the most prominent forms detected, with sexual exploitation accounting for 79%. Liberia's own accession to the Palermo Protocol on 22nd September of 2004 provided a pathway for the country to be able to legally address trafficking in persons. As you may be aware, the Palermo Protocol, consisting of 3 protocols that were adopted by the United Nations to supplement the 2000 Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. The Palermo Convention, namely the Protocol to Prevent, Suppress, and Punish Trafficking in Persons, especially women and children, the Protocol Against the Smuggling of Migrants by Land, Sea, and Air, and the Protocol Against the Illicit Manufacturing and Trafficking in Firearms, their parts, and components and ammunition. These protocols and conventions fall within the jurisdiction of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Now, on the 5th of July 2005, Liberia enacted a law to ban trafficking in persons within the Republic of Liberia. Since then, substantial progress has been made in combating trafficking in persons in Liberia. In 2019, Liberia was upgraded to Tier 2 because obviously we demonstrated overall increasing efforts in the fight against trafficking in persons compared to the previous reporting period. There was a significantly increase in investigations of internal trafficking, which came out as a recommendation in previous reports. And we allocated a budget to the Anti-Trafficking Task Force for the first time since 2014. A national referral mechanism was initiated, as well as increased awareness and identification of potential trafficking victims. These progresses were quickly derailed as a result of the devastating effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic generated conditions that influenced the increase of several different types of vulnerabilities in already vulnerable groups such as women, girls, and children. The declaration of the national emergency further hindered reporting, investigation, and subsequently prosecution. Prevention initiatives drew down as most of government's fundings were diverted towards the prevention and response to the pandemic. Additionally, the observation of the public health protocol made it even harder. There were challenges that led to Liberia's downgrading to Tier 2 watch list in 2021. However, cognizant of the distinct responsibility that my government bear under the Palermo Protocol to criminalize human trafficking in all of its forms and to prosecute and hold offenders accountable for their crimes, the government of Liberia, through the Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, on which my ministry as a co-chair, remained engaged. The government of Liberia have made progress and continue to work in implementing legislation, policies, and programs that are geared towards ending all forms of human trafficking. Earlier this year, the government of Liberia, through the Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, hired 10 lawyers to draft the new amendment of the 2005 Act to ban trafficking in persons in Liberia. The amended act was validated by the Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force and sent to both the lower and upper houses, the National Legislature, for passage. And you've already heard a bit about this through presentation earlier. Today, I'm very excited to be able to add on and say that the new amended act has been endorsed by the president and was passed into handbill and launched on the 29th of October, 2021. The law has in it a change of balance between civil liability and criminal conviction, and also includes restitution for victims for damages incurred as a result of trafficking. Under this new law, in accordance with Section 5, all legal persons held liable shall be subject to effective, proportionate, and dissuasive criminal or non-criminal sanctions, including monetary sanctions and award of restitution to the trafficking victim. A court of competent jurisdiction shall sentence a person convicted of the crime of trafficking in persons to a minimum of 20-year imprisonment, and in accordance with several sentencing guidelines. For instance, whoever holds or returns any person to a condition of trafficking or arrests, detains any person with the intention to place them in or returning them to or condition of trafficking shall be fined a sum of 100,000 United States dollars or its Liberian equivalent, or be imprisoned to a term of not more than 20 years or both. If death results from the violation, or if the violation includes kidnapping or attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, the defendant shall be fined under this title the sum of not less than 200,000 United States dollars, or imprisoned for any term of not less than 20 years or life, or both. In addition, where a defendant is convicted of trafficking in persons under Section 5, the court shall order the defendant to pay restitution as the court will find it fit and sufficient to the victim for a cost of medical and psychosocial treatment, cost of physical and occupational therapy and rehabilitation, cost of necessary transportation, temporary housing, lost income, attorney's fees, and other costs such as victim advocate fees, compensation for emotional distress, pain and suffering, any other loss suffered by the victim, any other costs as may be assessed by the court. Noting that Liberia now has some of the most stringent law on human trafficking in the world, we will continue to collaborate with local and international NGOs and civil society to strengthen victim protections at the policy and grassroots levels, take prevention measures, and raise public awareness about the dangers of trafficking in person. In this light, the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection established, trained, and empowered more community welfare committees. These are community members who are trained to report child abuse, including trafficking. The Ministry of Labor is also reactivating the trafficking in person meetings at the county levels. With support from UN Women and the government and partners, Anti-SGBV Roadmap 2020-2022, we also have support from UNTP. A call center response center has been established so that we can respond to calls of distress, including trafficking in person. And this call center has been operational since the earlier part of the COVID pandemic and is still operational till now. And it's open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. With support from the ILO, the Ministry of Labor is running a safe home for adult victims of trafficking in persons. And we have 4 additional safe homes that are being set up in Bumming County, Grand Juda County, Lofa County, and Nima County. And with support from UNICEF, the Ministry of Gender is running an interim care center that provides care and protection for children victims of trafficking in person. By October of 2020, the government of Liberia under the Weah-Led administration had provided $75,000 to the Ministry of Labor for the fight against trafficking in persons. In fiscal year 2021, so this year alone, financial support was increased to $200,000. During the adjustment of the fiscal year to calendar year, another $100,000 was provided to cover the 6 months period extension. Now for the 2022 calendar year, $200,000 has been proposed by the Ministry of Labor to fight trafficking in persons for that fiscal year. To sum up, the Ministry of Labor has received to date for 2021, $300,000 in order to help to fight against trafficking in person. The government has provided funding for law reform, persecution, victim support, and awareness. Law reform was completed with the research, drafting, vetting, passage by the legislature, signing into law by the president, and publication into handbill by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the amendment to the anti-human trafficking law. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has printed the trafficking in person law into handbills, and it has been delivered for more awareness and behavioral changes campaign, which is something that's very important as we go about this fight. Now, prosecution is ongoing of 6 cases this November term of court. These cases could not be proceeded with because of the moratorium placed on jury trial occasioned by the COVID-19 second wave. The government of Liberia contracted additional 5 seasoned lawyers to assist the Ministry of Labor prosecute these cases and expedite police investigations. On witness support, we have several males and females from Sierra Leone and the Ivory Coast and Cameroon in our safe homes under our care and protections. With psychosocial support provided, majority of whom complain of being victimized by a group known as QNet, an international syndicate operating under the pretense of being involved with trading via internet like Amazon. Legal proceedings is underway to ban them from operating in Liberia by closing down all the independent contractor offices. QNet does not pay taxes to the government of Liberia, neither is it a registered business in Liberia. Also, a special security task force has been organized strictly for trafficking in persons cases and will be hosted at the Ministry of Labor. On awareness, in addition to the Liberian Council of Churches, the Liberian Muslim Congress, traditional leaders, and student unions assisting in this effort, local NGOs are being contracted to spread the human trafficking and child labor messages in all of our 15 counties. And this is being done through live dramas, radio talk shows, jingles, posters, stickers, town hall meetings, town criers, movies, loudspeakers, etc. The government itself, through funding under the implementation of the intersectional and gender-based violence roadmap that was hosted on the auspices of His Excellency the President himself, and we at the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection are the lead, has been able to disburse $10,000 to the Ministry of Labor in order to help address trafficking in persons and child labor for the reproduction of the National Action Plan on Trafficking in Persons and Child Labor, including the printing and distribution of the awareness material. Last month, the Trafficking in Person Case Monitoring Protocols and Procedures document was signed by ourselves, the Ministry of Labor, and the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. And this was an event that is supported by IDLO, and it was considered a high-level discussion on the national referral pathways and the TIP case monitoring protocols and procedures. It was for bringing senior officials together to have an appreciation of these documents that their technical teams deal with regularly to avoid challenges in executing their duties. From the 25th to the 30th of October 2021, IDLO conducted exclusive training for county attorneys, circuit court judges, and joint training for county attorneys, public defenders, and law enforcement officers in Buchanan. And this was important because it helped people understand exactly how to deal with cases that involve TIP. Yesterday, the National Anti-Trafficking Task Force stakeholders endorsed the Trafficking in Person guidelines for communication and coordination. We also believe that trafficking is linked to economic issues. In this light, we have extended our social cash transfer program, and that's on the end of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. We went ahead and extended our social cash transfer program to include communities that are more vulnerable, and even adding an urban cash transfer component in Monserrate during the because of COVID, and that is still ongoing. The Ministry of Gender is also currently working with UNICEF on a proposal to curtail the advent of street children, who most times are victimized by parents giving them to family members to come from rural to urban areas for the purpose of attaining better education. Unfortunately, these kids are used to be breadwinners, and the situation then slides into a form of child trafficking. We need a complete, sustainable process from the streets to help check shelter, feeding, all the way through until reunification with the family members. We also are strengthening the coordination between the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, as chair and co-chairs of the Trafficking in Person Task Force, and the Ministry of Justice, and other actors to include the Liberia National Police, Liberia DEA, the Ministry of Health, and now we're saying that we really need to join hands and bring in also the Liberia Airport Authority, and also continue working with the Liberia Immigration Service, of course. And we want to do this to ensure that the referral pathway and the road to justice is accomplished. The Ministry of Justice will ensure that parents or guardians will now be held accountable for giving children out to those who dice them into child labor or child trafficking. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it is with a heavy heart but a bold face that I openly say to you that amidst this progress, our challenges remain overwhelming. And of course, it's the open secret that we were brought down to the tier 2 watch lists. We need to increase efforts to investigate and prosecute trafficking cases, as internal trafficking cases remains a challenge due to a lack of logistics. We're very happy that we're now infusing more dollars under the WEA-led administration into fighting trafficking in person, especially internal trafficking, but we know that we definitely need to put more towards logistics to ensure that this happens. We need more law enforcement officers to get a basic knowledge and information of what trafficking in person is, and thus the need for capacity building and training of more law enforcement and judicial officers on identifying, investigating, and prosecuting trafficking cases under the new amended 2021 anti-trafficking law. And this needs to take place nationwide. We're very happy that IDLO has started with that already, and we hope that we'll be seeing all of this happen throughout the country so that we have strengthened coordination amongst all of the relevant actors to ensure that we can, first of all, prevent trafficking, but if it comes to it, then the response will be full-fledged and will involve everybody, and we'll be able to do it to the best of our ability, considering that it is trafficking in person, and being able to stick by the laws that we have to abide by and be able to prosecute within those measures. Trafficking within a country is more prevalent than transatlantic trafficking. And so we have more internal trafficking, and most victims are children who are transported from rural to urban communities under false promises of giving them a better life. And so we really are all about doing a lot of outreach and awareness, especially in the countryside, in the rural areas, because we want to be able to really have our people who live in the rural area really understand what the concept is. Because a lot of times people do not understand what the concept is around trafficking. And this is something that has been done from time immemorial. People give their children out and think that they're going to have better life in urban areas. And they feel that, when they send the child to town, that child is going to be better off, whereas most times that is not the case. And with the amended law, we see that even those parents are going to be held liable now. So it's important for them to be informed. So ladies and gentlemen, with respect to the minimum standards for the elimination of human trafficking under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, the TVPA, my government continues to exert efforts across the 3P, the paradigm of prosecuting traffickers, protecting victims, and preventing the crime. And we have realized that this cannot be achieved by us alone. That is why we continue to involve and engage our international partners, also society actors and grassroots actors and the communities. And we ask you all and all of us to join hands in combating this heinous crime of trafficking in persons. To close, I will give you a quote from Albert Einstein, who once said, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything." We have to find a way to change the story for Liberia. We appreciate all of you who are putting arms around us to do that. Our intention is to change our community for the better, be it trafficking in persons, sexual and gender-based violence, all of those that are interlinking. And at this juncture, I would like to thank you all for the level of support, particularly our UN partners, our traditional ally, the United States of America, and its embassy accredited to Monrovia, near Monrovia, the IDLO, our civil society, and members of the Trafficking in Persons Task Force, and all other actors in Liberia and out of Liberia, like you are on the call today. All of you there working with our Consul General and with all our new friends at the West City College there. Together, we can meaningfully tackle and end human trafficking in Liberia. I thank you, and I'm open now for any questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Minister. And it's really clear to me why you have clinched the United States government's Women of Courage 2021 award to the U.S. Embassy accredited in Monrovia for your outstanding leadership in this space. So thank you so much for the presentation. Just to make a footnote here, the progress and achievements, we know we have challenges. We're very happy to hear those the progress and achievements that government has been making, the passage and signing into law, the amended anti-human trafficking law, the establishment and training of community welfare committees, the reactivation of TIP meetings at the county levels, very important to have that voice heard, establishment of the TIP call center. We'd love to hear more about that because of course, people will be wanting to know how do they make a report of any issues that might come up in terms of human trafficking. We have 911. Is that call center up and live and available for people who have those kinds of concerns and emergencies? The availability of safe homes, we'd love to hear more about that as well as time goes on. Where are those safe homes where people can go to have safe harbor? The budgetary support, very impressive to hear about the upgrade in terms of the financial commitment under President Weah's leadership that has been assigned to this particular issue. And of course, the printing of the TIP law to handbill for awareness and behavioral changes campaigns. Outstanding. And I'm sure that the U.S. Embassy under the leadership of Joel Mayberry was pleased to hear this update. All of this will be wrapped into our report that will be submitted as a part of this workshop in January of 2022. So Honorable Minister, thank you again for taking the time. You're in Glasgow attending the climate change conference. We know you are very, very busy, but your voice was so important to be heard this morning, and Godspeed and blessings. We hope to see you. We'll be there in December planning for phase 2 of the workshop. Lily will talk a little bit more about that, but we hope to see you in December as we further our discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I'm very, very hopeful that we'll be getting out of the watch list, getting back onto tier 2 and even climbing further to tier 1. I hope that with everything that we're putting in, because we really are paying attention to what the American government sent to us and the prioritized recommendations for our government. And we're sure that at the end of it, by the time March rolls around, we would have climbed up. We're keeping our fingers crossed.
That sounds excellent. And count us in as new members of your family and your team to help bring that positive report coming. You're so very, very welcome. And to your question, you sent me a text message about the video, just to let the listening audience here know that the video will be made available for training purposes only. And we also encourage you, if you're making contacts with some of our speakers, you please keep us informed or copied. We are tracking any challenges, any opportunities and next steps, keeping us in the loop, because those types of information sharing would also be wrapped into our final report for the embassy. Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you. Laylee, I'm turning it over to you.